The warning that was ignored. The Great Hall of the Stellar Dominion was a monument to power, its towering crystal pillars reflecting the artificial light from a sun trapped in an energy field above. The hall could house representatives from 1,000 star systems, each race holding their own cultural banners high, displaying their superiority among the galactic elite. Tonight, however, whispers of doubt and fear echoed between the walls. A holographic projection hovered above the central council chamber, flickering slightly as an old and weary face stared at the assembled rulers. Admiral Gray, one of the last surviving members of the Watchers, a secretive organization tasked with monitoring emerging species, stood in his dimly lit command center light years away. His white uniform, once pristine, was now creased with worry. The lines on his face were evidence of a man who had seen the collapse of empires before. His voice was steady but grave. "Members of the Dominion High Council, I bring you news of a species that may become your greatest mistake. They call themselves humans." The council chambers erupted in murmurs. Master Burson Vale, the head of the council, leaned forward on his floating throne, his golden robe shimmering under the artificial glow of the chamber. His 4 eyes narrowed with skepticism. "Another primitive race. We discover dozens each year. They always crumble before our fleets. What makes this one different?" Admiral Gray exhaled, tapping a command on his interface. The hologram changed. Images of Earth's wars, disasters, and revolutions played in a seamless loop, showing how humans had clawed their way to dominance on their homeworld. They advanced from crude weapons to nuclear power in a few centuries. They developed interstellar travel while still fighting among themselves. Master Burson scoffed. And yet, they remain confined to their own system. They have no fleet. They are no threat. Gray's jaw tightened. "That is where you are mistaken. They are preparing." The hologram flickered again, showing the hidden military installations in the asteroid belt, the modular space stations that appeared to be trade hubs but were equipped with railgun turrets and missile silos. Gray continued, his voice taking on a sharp edge. "They tell the galaxy they are peaceful explorers, but we've intercepted transmissions, fictional stories they create about alien invasions, galactic wars, and survival against superior foes." He zoomed in on a file. A single title translated into Galactic Common: "How to Defeat an Alien Empire." Silence fell over the hall. Master Burson laughed, shaking his head. "You bring us stories. This is your great warning." Gray's eyes burned with frustration. Their stories become reality. They imagined spaceflight, and they built it. They imagined planetary colonization, and now they are expanding. They imagined weapons to kill gods. Do you think they won't try? A few council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Master Burson, however, only waved a hand dismissively. "They are a Class 4 species. Minimal threat. We will integrate their system when we expand in their direction. We will not waste resources fearing creatures who still rely on chemical propulsion." Gray gritted his teeth. He had seen this before. The Azurians had dismissed a species on the edge of their empire once. That species, the Dravaki, had later eradicated them in a war that lasted only a decade. The same pattern was happening here. His voice lowered, carrying a weight that made some council members uneasy. "You make the same mistake every fallen empire has before you. You underestimate the ones who refuse to die." His hologram flickered, the transmission coming to an end. "Remember this moment when their ships arrive at your doorstep. We tried to warn you." The projection vanished. For a moment, the council chamber was silent. Then, Master Burson chuckled. The chuckle turned into a full-bodied laugh, encouraging others to join him in mockery. "Imagine," he gasped between laughs, "being afraid of creatures who still use combustion engines. Let them play with their little war games. The Dominion has real matters to discuss." With a wave of his hand, the meeting moved on. No one noticed the small data crystal that had been left behind, embedded in the Watcher's last transmission. It contained one final message: hidden in layers of encryption. Prepare yourselves, humans. We will find you when the time comes. First contact. The Dominion research ship, Starseeker, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Commander Reed, an experienced survey officer, studied the readings on his console. Another routine survey mission. Check for resources, mark any primitive settlements, move on. He had done this hundreds of times before. Begin long-range scans, he said, leaning back in his chair. The ship's sensors pulsed outward, searching, analyzing, classifying. His eyes flicked to the main display. Unexpected activity. There, just beyond Neptune's orbit, were several vessels moving between the ice bodies of the Kuiper Belt. Mining ships. Here, his brow furrowed. That wasn't in the reports. The humans were supposed to be confined to their inner system, limited to Mars and their moons. And yet, here they were, expanding in secret. Take us closer. Let's remind these primitives about proper space etiquette. The Starseeker moved forward, closing in on the human vessels. Reed was unimpressed. The human ships were bulky, outdated machines, their hulls pockmarked with welding scars, their exhaust trails primitive and inefficient. He smirked. These were not the ships of a species ready for galactic war. Open communications. Let's see if they even understand galactic common. To his surprise, the reply was instant. A voice, clear and confident, responded over the comms. This is Mining Station Delta. Welcome to the Sol system. We've been hoping to meet our galactic neighbors. Would you like to discuss trade opportunities? Reed frowned. The humans weren't supposed to know galactic standard yet. This is Commander Reed of the Stellar Dominion. You are operating in restricted space. Remove your ships immediately. A pause. Then, the voice returned, still polite. Still, calm. I'm afraid there must be some mistake, Commander. We have legal claim to these resources under the Sol System Mining Charter of 2054. We'd be happy to share our documentation. Reed laughed. Primitive species don't get legal claims. This system belongs to the Dominion. You have 1 hour to retreat to your homeworld. Another pause. When the human responded again, their tone had changed. It was no longer polite. It was cold. Commander Reed, we strongly advise against hostile actions. We wish to handle this diplomatically. However, the voice hesitated, then finished with absolute certainty. We are prepared to defend our legal claims if necessary. Humanity's veil lifts, a false display of weakness. Commander Reed sat in his chair aboard the Starseeker, fingers drumming against the control panel. His golden eyes reflected the tactical display on the holoscreen before him. Dozens of human mining ships, drifting casually between Kuiper Belt asteroids, as if they had no concern for the Dominion warship that had just entered their territory. These humans were arrogant. And yet, something felt off. Their tone had changed the moment he had issued his warning. They hadn't pleaded. They hadn't bargained like the lesser species before them. They had stated their terms, as if they had the power to enforce them. Reed narrowed his eyes. No, this was Theatrix. The humans wanted to appear more dangerous than they were. Prepare a warning shot, he said. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, do you think that's wise? We still don't know the full extent of They're primitives, Lieutenant. We will teach them their place. Fire. A single plasma round lanced through space, flashing past the hull of one of the mining ships. It wasn't meant to hit, only to remind them who was in control. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire fleet of human mining ships shimmered. Their rusted, clunky exteriors warped and shifted, revealing something else entirely beneath. Sleek, angular armor plating slid into place. Hidden railguns and missile silos unfolded from compartments, their targeting systems locking onto the Starseeker with unsettling precision. Reed's stomach twisted. It had been a trap. What? What is this? A new voice came through the comms, colder than the vacuum of space itself. Commander Reed, Your shot has been logged. Per First Contact Protocol 7, we are now activating defensive countermeasures. Reed felt his blood run cold. The Star Seeker's sensor systems flickered wildly as a wave of electronic interference washed over it, scrambling Dominion encryption keys. The human ships weren't just disguising themselves visually. They had hidden their energy signatures, their weapon readouts, their fleet composition. And now, the veil had lifted. Sir, they just disabled our sensor network. The Dominion warship's warning alarm screamed. One moment, the humans had been nothing but harmless miners. Now they were a fully armed battle group. Reed couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. It wasn't just that their ships had been hiding weapons. It was that they had been playing dumb. A dangerous game. On the bridge of Mining Station Delta, Captain James Walker leaned back in his chair, watching the panicked expressions aboard the Dominion warship through the station's passive scanners. He let them sweat for a moment. Humans had learned centuries ago that the easiest way to win a fight was to make the enemy underestimate you, and the Dominion had taken the bait perfectly. "Commander Reed," Walker said, finally responding to the comms, "I'd suggest you disengage. We have no interest in war. But make no mistake, if you fire another shot, we will respond in kind." Reed's voice came through, filled with rage and disbelief. This is an act of deception, a violation of interstellar diplomacy." Walker chuckled. "I think you'll find that we never actually lied. You just never asked the right questions." The Star Seeker's engines flared, moving to reposition, but the human ships moved with them, blocking their every escape route. They were fast, faster than they should have been. Walker turned to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Rachel Carter. "Anything on their transmission logs?" Carter smirked. "They were trying to send an encrypted data burst before we jammed them. Standard distress call. But we intercepted it first." Walker exhaled. "Good. That means they're alone. A negotiation built on strength." Reed gritted his teeth. He had walked into a trap, and he knew it. The humans could have destroyed him already, but they hadn't. That meant they still wanted a diplomatic resolution, or they wanted something else. He swallowed his pride. "What do you want?" Walker leaned forward. "Nothing much, just a simple understanding. You leave our system, and you tell the Dominion that we aren't to be touched." Reed bristled. "You think you can dictate terms to us?" Walker's smile didn't waver. "If we wanted to, you'd already be dead. But we're reasonable people. We don't start fights. We just finish them." Reed felt his claws tighten against his armrest. These humans weren't just dangerous. They were manipulative. And the worst part, they were good at it. He had no choice. If he fought, he'd lose. If he tried to retreat by force, they'd cripple his ship before he could reach FTL range. There was only one move left to play. Fine. The Star Seeker's weapons deactivated. Walker leaned back. "Smart choice, Commander. You'll live to see tomorrow." The storm that was coming. Reed's warship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, vanishing into the void. For the first time in Dominion history, a military vessel had retreated from a primitive species. Walker turned back to Lieutenant Carter. "How long until they report this to their high command?" Carter's fingers danced over the console. "If I had to guess, maybe a week before it reaches the right ears, 2 before they decide to act." Walker exhaled slowly. "Then we don't have much time." Carter frowned. "You really think they'll come for us?" Walker met her gaze, his expression grim. "Oh, they'll come. They'll convince themselves this was just a fluke. That we just got lucky." His fingers tapped against the steel surface of the command console. "And that means next time, they won't send one warship." A silent understanding passed between them. Operation Paper Tiger begins. Across the solar system, deep space stations awoke from dormancy. Stealth platforms, hidden beneath the icy crust of Europa, activated their targeting systems. Shipyards, previously disguised as orbital debris, lit up with the glow of reactor cores roaring to life. What had once appeared to be communications satellites extended turret arrays and missile silos. For years, humanity had played the fool, convincing the galaxy that they were weaker than they truly were. Now, the game was changing. And when the Dominion came for them, they would learn the truth the hard way. The empire that laughed. Denial of the inevitable. The Great Hall of the Stellar Dominion was once again filled with the murmurs of hundreds of council members. Representatives of 1,000 systems sat in their floating seats, the air thick with the scent of exotic incense and the hum of low conversation. At the center, Master Burson Vale stood before the massive holographic projection of Commander Reed, whose face flickered with an expression of controlled frustration. The council chamber's golden walls glowed from the light of the artificial sun above, bathing the room in an aura of majesty. This was a hall built for rulers, not for warnings from lowly fleet officers. You are telling me, Commander Reed, that the humans forced your ship into retreat. Master Burson's voice was filled with disbelief. His 4 golden eyes narrowed. Reed exhaled slowly. I had no choice. Their fleet was hidden. They possess military-grade technology far beyond what we anticipated. If I had engaged, I would not be speaking to you now. A scoff rippled through the chamber. Preposterous, sneered High Chancellor Veyran. Humans are classified as a Class 4 species. They barely left their home system a few decades ago. Their technology is primitive. This must have been some trick. An illusion. Another member chimed in. Reed gritted his teeth. They didn't believe him. They refused to. He had seen the human warships decloak before his very eyes, vessels that should have been impossible for a species so young. He had watched primitive mining ships unfold into battle-ready destroyers, had heard their voices calmly issue warnings, and had felt his own stomach drop at the sheer confidence in their words. And now these arrogant fools dismissed it. He clenched his fists. Master Burson, I am telling you plainly, if we attack them blindly, we will lose. They are not what we thought they were. They have spent decades hiding their capabilities from the rest of the galaxy, and they have done it well. Master Burson laughed. The sound of mockery echoed through the chamber. The other council members joined in. Laughter. As if Reed had just suggested that a tribal species with sticks and stones could defeat their armadas. Master Burson leaned forward, his voice filled with condescension. Commander, you are a veteran officer, yet you let a handful of humans trick you into retreat. Do you not see what they are doing? They rely on deception. They make themselves look stronger than they are. Reed bristled. They are strong. I saw it myself. Master Burson waved a dismissive hand. Your eyes were deceived. The only thing the humans have accomplished is delaying the inevitable. We will send a fleet to Sol, and we will teach them why deception does not work against true power. Reed inhaled deeply. They wouldn't listen. They never listened. So he said nothing. Because if they were truly so blind, then there was nothing he could say that would save them from what was coming. Master Burson turned to his military advisors. Mobilize the Third Fleet. We will make an example of these humans. And with that, the fate of the Dominion was sealed. Humanity's trap was already set. Deep within the asteroid belt of Sol, hidden facilities activated. For years, Earth's military had been running Operation Paper Tiger, a calculated deception campaign. Every signal sent out from Earth, every satellite scan, every public display of technology was carefully crafted to appear decades behind. They hid their true warships, constructing them beneath the oceans of Europa, deep within lunar craters, and inside the hollowed-out cores of long-dead asteroids. They let the galaxy believe they were weak. Because weak species weren't invaded. Weak species weren't feared. Weak species were ignored. Until now. Captain James Walker, standing aboard Guardian 1, Earth's primary orbital defense station, looked at the real-time sensor feeds with cold satisfaction. The Dominion's Third Fleet was en route. Right on schedule. He turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Rachel Carter, who was watching the sensor screen with narrowed eyes. "They're coming." Her voice was steady. Walker nodded. "Let them." Because unlike the Dominion, Earth had spent decades studying its enemies, and they knew exactly how to defeat them. The arrival of the Dominion's Third Fleet. 2 weeks later, 50 massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, the golden insignia of the Dominion gleaming in the sunlight of Sol. Admiral Pierce Var stood aboard the flagship of the Third Fleet, arms crossed over his armored chest, looking down at Earth and its orbital stations with disdain. The planet looked small, fragile, pathetic. His communications officer turned. "Admiral, the humans are hailing us." Var smirked. Of course they were. The weak always begged first. "Put them through." The view screen flickered, revealing Captain Walker, standing aboard Guardian 1, his expression unreadable. "Admiral Var, welcome to Sol. I assume you're not here for trade negotiations." Var let out a laugh. "Captain, you are in violation of Dominion law. Your species has been judged unworthy of independent governance. You will surrender all military assets and submit to integration." Walker tilted his head. Var's smirk widened. "Or we burn your world to ash." A long silence followed. Then, Walker's lips curled into a grin, and Var's stomach sank. "You should have listened to Admiral Gray. The trap is sprung." Without warning, the entire Dominion fleet's sensors went dark. Alarms blared. The stars blinked out, the FTL escape routes cut off. All at once, thousands of human warships, previously hidden among the asteroid field, decloaked in perfect formation. They were smaller than Dominion warships, faster, deadlier. Admiral Var barely had time to shout an order before the first wave of human missiles launched. Hundreds of Dominion warships exploded in an instant. What had been an invasion had turned into a massacre. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Dominion learned the meaning of terror.